line, the Gulf Stream, I've been in Tampa Bay, around the horn, and home again, 'cause that is the sailor's way.
Welcome back to the Old Colony Cast, a podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas. And before I even get into introducing our normal guest, I just want to put a little content warning. It's really the only way to discuss or to say this. We're going to be talking about Christmas and Santa Claus, and we're going to be discussing about it in an adult. I don't want to say adult because that sounds like way in a mature manner.
Yeah, we're talking about Santa in a mature way.
Yeah, so if you have listeners that you think might not want to hear about Santa Claus in a mature way, now's the time to shut it off. We won't be offended. Catch us up in 2 weeks and we'll be discussing
younger
something else.
Listeners who may want to hear about Santa at a later date.
Yeah. And if you're a younger
Wink,
listener,
wink.
then go ask your parents if you don't understand what we're talking about. But if you do understand what we're talking about, then I am Andy, and I am here again with Hanna, as always.
Hello.
And Fish is joining us as well.
Hi.
And so Hanna, after that weird content warning, because we just had this conversation being like, oh, crap, how are we going to play this? What are we going to be talking about today, Hanna?
We're going to be talking about the first department store Santa Claus.
Outstanding.
Yes.
So that was our concern, is we didn't want any young listeners who have shut off the podcast now. Stop listening if you need to.
Yes.
But we didn't want to upset any young listeners who may listen. And so why does Santa Claus relate to Plymouth and surrounding areas, Hanna? I mean, the North Pole's not... Wait, was Santa Claus a pilgrim?
Oh my God. No. That would have been cool.
No, he was a 5th century bishop, but that's kind of not the point.
Like, the real one?
Like the actual
Saint Nicholas.
See, that's it. When I say things like that, it's like, I'm so happy we gave that warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of why.
I'm going to be throwing around the terms
With the
real
real.
and fake
Yes.
very
Yeah.
loosely. Like any good story of someone with a really hardy, cool background, it
Starts with murder?
starts with,
Wow.
No.
I was expecting a no, and I got a well.
no, definitely not
Okay.
murder. But in the
Technically,
city,
it was manslaughter.
no, in the city of champions.
Brockton, Massachusetts.
That is right.
Yeah.
The city of my people.
Your people?
Yeah, that's where my family's from.
Okay.
My condolences.
Hey, we
Left?
No, my dad's still there. My nana's still
I
there.
grew up
my
right
cousins
next door.
are
I used to
there.
work in Brockton.
Yeah.
Donnie's family's from there. They still live there.
My mom used to work at Brockton Hospital.
My dad did too
Nice.
for a long time, and my mom, and my
Yeah.
aunt.
Wow. Did any of them work in the maternity ward?
No,
Oh my God, we could be related. I don't know how that makes you related, but
no. And in Brockton city terms, maybe yes.
Yeah.
But so, the first Santa Claus, first department store Santa Claus.
first department store Santa Claus.
That's right. So not the first depiction of a Santa Claus, which
Right.
is different.
That was like a Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that had already occurred. So we already knew the image of Santa Claus and the marketing of Santa Claus for Christmas, but we didn't have the actual visitor in a store for Santa Claus. And this brings us to James Edgar.
Okay.
Know anything about him?
Nope.
All right, cool.
Not a thing.
He's other than that.
Couldn't even think anything about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly, only what I don't remember from our 50th episode.
yeah, which was he was from Brockton, Massachusetts. Yeah. And that's it. That's the whole episode. No.
All right, thanks for listening again.
He's from Brockton, City of Champs. Better known as Colonel Jim to some people.
Colonel Jim. Okay.
Yes. He was actually born in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And a while
First Santa
ago.
Claus was Scottish?
Yeah.
Okay.
European,
Sure.
Why not? And he was born in 1843. You doing math?
I was trying to figure out how old he would be now.
Oh, okay. I was like, what could you possibly be adding
It's
up
like
right now?
220-ish? 217?
And he came to the United States when he was 22. And he did not the United States, sorry. He actually started in New Brunswick.
The best time to come to North America, the middle of the Civil War.
He made the best
No,
of
he
it,
was
I
Scottish.
promise,
I mean,
yeah.
Just when I want to emigrate. Just when I want to move in.
So, well, because he was just not having the best of luck with jobs there. We'll get into that. But he was first went to New Brunswick and then said, nope, I heard Boston is pretty promising. So he pawned one of his watches and bought a ticket to...
Did he ship off to Boston?
He was shipping off to Boston. But when he did work in Scotland, he worked as a cloth merchant, or also known as a linen draper in that time.
Oh, yeah.
And he made $50 a year under incredibly terrible working circumstances. It just was not a good job. He was very upset by it. So
Was that pay a lot at the time?
No.
Okay.
So you'll see comparatively when he came to Boston.
Okay.
How different that is. So he went. He obviously just wasn't having a good time in Scotland with that. He said, "I'm better than this. You guys aren't treating me right. I'm gonna see what New Brunswick has in store." New Brunswick did not have it for him, but Boston did. And he started working for Hogg, Brown, and Taylor dry goods store.
That's an amazing name.
Yeah.
I want a Hogg, Brown, and Taylor t-shirt.
It sounds
That sounds awesome.
Hogg, Brown, and
You know,
Taylor.
we probably we'll put it on the merch list.
Yeah.
It sounds like a, I don't know, like a band or something.
It sounds exactly what you expect from a 1800
19th century
Yeah.
general store.
Yeah, dry goods.
Ooh, was it 2 G's and Hog?
Yeah.
Alrighty. That's all I
So
wanted.
he started making $12 a week.
Oh, okay.
So
much better.
Vastly
Yeah.
different, right? And dry goods, for anyone who doesn't know, it's exactly what Andy, sorry, I'm looking at Fish, and I meant to say your name.
We don't look that much alike.
No.
I'm not wearing a hat.
No,
Yeah.
true. It's exactly what Fish just said. It's a department store.
Stuff. They sell stuff.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dry goods coming from the literal definition of how they kept things on a ship. There was a dry area and a wet area, and they kept the stuff that was supposed to be dry in
Dry.
The dry area. Yeah. Nothing nothing more literal than that, right? He also spent some time in Providence, and he met his wife there, and they ended up having...
Mrs. Claus?
And he had one daughter, Mrs. Claus. Yeah, what was Mrs. Claus' name on Jessica
What?
on Santa Claus is Coming to Town?
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I don't remember that.
I
Yeah.
love that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently.
And thank you, Hannah. And I've got one foot in front of the other in my head.
Yeah.
I'll be back later.
But no, Annie McLeod was his wife's name. And like I said, they got married, had one daughter. And in 1878, James Edgar teamed up with George W. Reynolds and created the Boston store, the Boston Dry Goods store in Brockton, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
Seems like a misnomer.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Well, I guess the Boston...
It's like Boston Market.
The Boston store was a very popular name for many stores, so I don't know how, what's it called, trademarking or anything like that, or business licensing went, but apparently the Boston store was just a fairly common dry goods store name. So they weren't the only one
Okay.
at all. Maybe in Brockton, but definitely in the South Shore, that area.
Do we
of
know
Mass.
where it was located in Brock?
I believe off Main Street.
Okay.
I think that's where he's commemorated.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's
It's
there.
roughly in
I
that,
tried
yeah.
to find pictures of it.
Yeah.
Hard to tell because they're drawings.
Oh, okay.
And Brockton looks different now.
they're drawings of places with no current reference.
Yeah, exactly. So, so he teamed up with his buddy there, and they ended up starting a very successful business. And it was coming in with the times of department stores, being the way of American life or United Statesian life.
United Statesians.
Instead of people making their own clothes, they started switching to mass production of things and people being able to buy clothes and so on and so forth. So
This would be Industrial Revolution type
Yeah,
time?
give it-
Yeah.
Basically switch from
Yeah.
small cottage industry to larger industrialized.
Yeah. Go on.
Shut
what are you
up.
saying?
So,
Oh, wait, he was saying something.
Oh yeah, what were you saying?
I think it was basically wrapping it up. It was just the Industrial Revolution, basically going from small cottage industry to bigger industrialized.
Yeah.
And then I stopped because that's where I stopped my sentences.
Okay.
Halfway through.
He didn't live considering how successful the business started and became. It's not like he was running around spending his money like crazy. He's got an Andrew Borden possibly in his way of spending.
Lizzie Borden?
Yeah.
Andrew Borden?
So
it's weird because I was going to make that reference. I'm like, I wonder if that was just the way those people dealt with their money. Was they were just like, well, this might not be a forever thing, and we're very frugal.
yeah, well, he was frugal, but giving to his employees, which was good. He was frugal in the sense where they lived in an apartment in Brockton, him and his family. He also had a summer home in Lakeville. It's not like he wasn't.
Yeah.
He definitely
He's like, I'm going to be frugal, but not crazy.
Yeah.
I do like he was very frugal. He had a summer house.
Well, I think frugal
But
in the
in
sense.
Lakeville.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
in
not
Lakeville. It's not like Brockton only had apartments. Like, he could have gotten a pretty nice plot of land
I
in
admit,
Brockton.
I don't know what 19th century Lakeville was like. I assume it was...
No, it was probably very cottagey.
I have to imagine it's on Walden Pond, just everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no houses, one.
Yeah,
one,
don't Google that. That's exactly how it was.
Yeah, one cabin per pond,
Yeah.
or lake, whatever, and that was it. So yeah, I mean, he was definitely going to enjoy life, but it's not like he was throwing his money into everything that he just wanted at the time, whatever.
He's like, I'm gonna just live with my PlayStation 4. I don't need the PlayStation 5.
They also started their business at a time where Brockton, before Brockton was a city.
Yeah.
So businesses like this coming in is what actually made Brockton the populated area
Is this
it is.
after it cut itself off from... Is this after it split off from Bridgewater?
I think
it is, yeah.
Yep, it is. And this is also when our guy, the electrician, he's not an electrician. He had a lot to do with electricity, though. I cannot think of his name because I said I don't need to write
Thomas
it down.
Edison?
This is the most famous person that we could talk about in this episode. Yeah, Thomas Edison. I literally was like, I don't need to write his name down.
It's okay. I was 50-50. I almost said Tesla.
I was gonna go with Glenn.
So
Man, that is a niche reference.
I know. I mean, but hopefully our Plymouth listeners get it.
he came in and actually laid some electricity down for the city of Brockton in the Boston store. Installed,
no kidding.
Yeah, installed and used electricity.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they had lights and they used registers that used electricity, I guess. Somehow.
Wow. Fancy.
It says they had lights and installed registers. It didn't say whether or not the registers were electric though, because I'm pretty sure I swear to my first job, I don't think I used an electric register. I'm like,
well, mine definitely did.
it was. No, it was electric. It was just old.
No, I just like how Hannah's like my first job, which was around 2005.
2004.
I know it's we didn't have electric. It's it's been 120 years.
If they didn't, it was kitschy on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say
in 2004, not having an electric register was a choice.
it was definitely an electric register, but there were definitely old school things happening there.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was a deliberate decision on their part, not a.
So they may or may not have been electric registers, but they definitely weren't self-checkout.
Yeah.
Nobody had the self-scale going.
And like I said, he was really good to his employees. He gave them a living wage, a very fair living wage. I heard nothing, read nothing, but just that he was just very generous with benefits to them and giving them, I don't know, incentives, right? What employees actually want for hard work, steady hours, just a general fun work environment. And he also offered
casual Friday. They all wear Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah, honestly, from the sound of this person, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
Edgar made up the layaway plan, the Edgar layaway plan.
As in layaway as we know layaway?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was he essentially started banking, and I'm pretty sure it was for his employees, or maybe could have been offered to customers. I didn't understand it. I was like, was it just for himself? Because that doesn't make any sense. He's just like embezzling his own money. I don't know why he would. But it's
Tax dodge.
yeah, right? So he essentially made a layaway plan that was 4% interest for people. So is it the layaway we know today or the layaway? It sounded like he was like just like, hey, you got to save your money with me.
Yeah. Huh.
But, or was it layaway? You could buy something and then pay it off over time at 4% interest?
So either invented banking or credit cards. Yeah.
Either way, he had a fairly decent interest rate on
Yeah.
it. It literally just says layaway plan.
I don't know.
Oh.
The downside of recording down here is that the internet is slow.
Yeah.
I can assure you for only 3 areas on the internet I found it didn't go into detail at all. Either way, I
So he
think...
created something called the Edgar Layaway plan.
Yeah, and I think for people that we know today, like Marshalls used to do layaway,
Yep.
Walmart used to do layaway.
Filene's.
Filene's.
A lot of places will do
Yeah.
that because it's like you buy it all your Christmas stuff now and then you pay it off for like 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To me, that makes more sense, him being a department store person, owner. Right?
So let's just say
That's the one.
he made Layaway.
But the way it was described in one website, which is why I'm very loosely saying it sounded like he invented baking, I think he just helped his employees with savings and like with pensions and things
Yeah.
like that. But, you know, I'm sure it depended on your status on working there and things like that. So it was very nondescript as to which was the...
So if
yeah.
any of our listeners happen to know what the hell the Edgar Layaway plan is,
I'm going to
let
assume
us
it
know.
has to do with
Yeah.
clothes and customers, but needless, like, you know, but either way, he was very, very good to his employees.
Yeah.
Or it was just him just taking like 4%.
4% of whatever.
Yeah, he's like, this is my layaway.
Yeah.
That's how I earn money. Like I said, he was just an over-the-top person when it came to treating his employees well. He was also just really innovative when it came to marketing and sales in his own store. So he pushed current promotions. He did like price slashing tactics. So if a dress was $1.39, he took a whole dollar off of it and sold it for 39 cents to
Oh,
move
wow.
through inventory. He he had marketing up in his store. He had just tried to push a move product at
Yeah.
an aggressive way that really hadn't been practiced, at least widely known to be practiced like that. And he also created events that drew customers into the store. There was, like, besides the sales, he one day threw pennies off of the top of his store, like,
Okay.
onto the street to people.
At the time when pennies meant something.
Of course, yeah. When you're buying a dress for 36 cents, a
Yeah.
couple pennies caught from flying at you from up above, 20 feet in the sky, sounds pretty good.
Pennies from heaven.
Yeah,
And-
pennies from
and
heaven.
now it's an assault charge.
So he also had as much respect for the customers that came into his store. So he didn't care if someone could afford to buy, I almost said like hundreds of dollars, but could afford to buy $50 worth of something or $1 worth of something.
You buy dollars worth of product.
Yeah, he insisted that his employees treat everyone with respect that walked through the building. Everyone was had the same customer service experience, and everyone left happy. So he had no interest in your status and how much money you would actually be giving to the store. He just wanted everyone to have a good time and get some stuff. So he was a pretty cool dude, from what I could tell. Like I said, he had his employees earn a livable wage. They also, like, it's pretty much rumor, but not really rumor, that they just never left. Like, once you worked there, you never
stayed there, yeah.
Yeah, you stayed there. That literally says, like, they stayed there until they died. Like,
Which is one of those, for having worked retail, that's huge.
Yeah.
Like, if you can get people to stay in your retail company.
yeah. It reminded me a lot of, like, Cordage Park
Yeah.
in the way they, like,
Oh, yeah, 'cause
modeled
yeah.
for their employees and how, like, dedicated and loyal everyone was there.
But you can tell because you've said living wage, I think, 8 times.
Yeah.
And, like, people now will be like, oh,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
living
right?
wage, holy crap.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Right. So he he also, on February 1st, 1899, sold some, or created made his business public technically, right? If you go into the stock market.
Stocks, yeah.
You go public.
So he sold 25 stocks to his shares to his employees.
Oh, to his employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he made them owners
Owners
of
of
the
the,
business. Which I don't know. It's like I'm saying all these things again, or I'm like, I'm not a good business person like that. He could have just been doing that. Been like, this is actually benefiting me a lot.
I mean, it is in that you sell the money you get for the shares raises capital, but it also gets your employees to be like...
It gets some
Invested.
ownership.
They're literally
invested
invested in the business at this point, and that's great for getting them to really kind of...
Because every suit they sell is a
It's
suit.
money. Yeah.
Yeah, and
The
they're
better
bought,
they
yeah.
do, the
Better they do.
Yeah. Well, to think of when stock sharing...
That sense. It's like, oh...
But I mean, stock sharing as a corporate thing, I think was it kind of came out in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty,
So it's way ahead of its time.
fairly common now,
Yeah.
but it's not but to do it in the end of the 19th century is pretty ahead of the curve.
Right. Yeah.
So it must have been Christmas there every day.
Yeah, this dude
See how
sounded...
I'm rolling that back in?
I know. We're getting there. So in 1886, the original Boston store burned down. And the partner he had died.
In the fire?
No, he just died
It's oh my God.
shortly after.
Yeah.
So Edgar bought out his half of the business from his estate, and he rebuilt the Boston store. And as we know, he did events, he did all this stuff, he did all this crazy stuff in his store for his employees. Dressing up was not something he didn't do. He dressed up all the time. He was known for wearing clown costumes, dressing up as George Washington, as a cricket player.
He sounds like a used car salesman.
Yeah, he dressed up as a Native American figure.
Which I'm sure wasn't offensive at all.
No, and it gets worse that he named himself Big Chief.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so he dressed up as a sea captain.
I could say it's better Big Chief than trying to come up with an actual name and then getting really bad.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm sure it wasn't good, but, what are you going to do?
You grade in a curve.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Could have been worse.
I guess. So he also dressed up as a clown. Did I miss anyone? It could probably... I'm sure the list
George
goes on.
Washington, sea captain, racist stereotype. I think I got them all.
And of
Tell
course...
me, didn't you do blackface?
Oh my god. I hope not. He didn't, at least in any of the things I've read.
Okay.
So...
No, just whiteface because of the clown.
True. So, of course, we know why we're talking about him.
Santa.
Santa.
I think Andy's lost.
Oh, right, Santa, yeah.
Santa. So it was in December in 1890. So he had just rebuilt the store a few years before. And he decided to go to his tailor in Boston and have him sew him up a Santa suit. And he decided to just walk through the aisles of the store dressed as Santa. It could have been promotionalized slightly, but I don't think they ever expected it to take off the way it did.
So he was just oh, it's December. I'm going to wear a Santa Claus suit.
He did stuff like that all the time. Would just dress up as someone. So that just so happened that December he decided to dress up like Santa. So he got the red suit and just walked around the aisles and said hi to all the kids in the store.
Did he have a belly like a bowl full of jelly?
Yeah, he did.
I can't tell if you're lying to me.
No,
On brand, I have no idea if you're lying.
At this point, that was very believable. Hanna, that was less believable than you saying you don't kill people.
You could have convinced me either way. I have no idea if she's lying to me or not.
he did, I guess.
right.
Yeah.
But did he look the part?
Yes, he did.
All right.
He definitely looked the part of Santa. So it was all in the hesitation, I swear. So
For what it's worth, he probably would have, because the Visit from St. Nicholas poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," was older than that, so it would have been
Yeah, but I've seen people dressed up like Santa Claus that don't look like Santa Claus.
No, but all I'm saying is the
Billy Bob
bright jelly
Thornton.
elf and the bowl of jelly would have
Yes, that's who I was
popped up in the 1823.
Yeah, so he would have had
So
that
that was
description
the
that was
image.
the going description of
yeah
Santa.
that was the go yeah.
So yeah, people were pumped. They loved it. They loved it so much that they had a line out the door, and he ended up doing it more than just that day. He did it for sounds like the month of December, and people.
So people post on social media, and be like, "Oh my God, Santa's at
Santa's
Boston."
at the Boston store. In
Yeah, the Boston
Brockton.
store's Instapage just blew up.
And it doesn't sound like he necessarily had the traditional sit on a chair and have your kid come up.
Yeah.
It sounded like he was really walking around interacting with people and or probably greeting people, but it wasn't the go up and have your picture taken with Santa thing.
I feel like the go up and take your pictures with Santa thing was mostly the picture part.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's like most of the time it's torturing your poor child.
Yeah, I
'Cause
was
they
never a fan
cry
of that.
and do not enjoy it.
I didn't cry, but I was just like,
Yeah.
that's a man.
I don't
I don't
remember.
know.
I don't think I ever did it as a kid.
I wouldn't. I refused.
I don't remember my parents ever inflicting that on me.
I did
and
it as an adult, and it was definitely as creepy as
You
I
did
thought
it as
would
an
be.
adult?
Yeah. As
No,
creepy
Hannah.
as I thought
Okay.
it would be.
Hannah, that is creepier because now you're a grown woman going up to sit in a strange man's lap.
I sat on his lap with another man.
Wait, did you bring Donnie with you?
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't. Oh,
Was it creepier for you or for Donnie?
It was definitely creepier for me. You got to see where his hand is.
Oh no,
I was like,
Santa, no!
look at that guy. Anyway, all right.
Well, he's probably like, ooh, a grown up.
The audacity.
Don't knock our audio editing software. Thank you.
So it was so popular. People were driving from all over, from Boston, which isn't that far from Brockton, but still. And driving, they were getting there.
Yeah.
So they, coming from New York City,
Oh wow.
Which is
New York?
considerably further away
Yeah,
than
that's much
Boston.
further.
Providence, still I'm sure Connecticut, because you have to go through Connecticut. So why wouldn't Connecticut people go there? But people were coming from everywhere. Kids
Far and wide.
Exactly. And it was the magical experience that kids I don't know, what Miracle on 34th Street,
Yeah.
that,
Oh, sure, yeah.
twinkly lights, sounds, all that
It
stuff.
was more Miracle on 34th Street than, say, A Christmas Story,
Yes, yeah, and it was
which are the two big kid meeting Santa at the mall
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh,
stories in
Yeah.
media, and they're very different.
So it was very magical. There's people on record at a much older age, like in their 90s, talking about meeting Santa when they were so young. And it wasn't a thing you could go do
It
at
was
that time.
just in
it
Brockton.
was it just happened. They were like, "Oh my god, I couldn't believe seeing him in the aisles." Like it just sounded like so pure, and I'm take for granted seeing Santa all the time as I grew up. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, because usually
Because
there's
Hannah
a
wasn't
line, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
And it comes from a long line of Christmas elves.
yeah, I just saw him every day.
Cape Verdean Christmas elves.
Yeah, we got
Cape Verdean Pilgrim Christmas elves.
Pilgrim.
Her 23andMe is just bonkers.
Yeah. I'm not related to pilgrims, guys. I said that in a previous episode. Listeners.
You say we.
Yeah. Plymothians. So, he was so busy, he had to take some days off or at least take breaks, so he got another suit made for his nephew. So they took turns. I don't know how his nephew compared to the jolly old Saint Nick look.
Jolly young Saint Nick.
Jolly young
So
Saint
this
Nick.
is
Figured you're
the
fine.
first no, that's Santa's helper.
I don't know. I mean, he was dressed like Santa, so,
Yeah.
but I know what you're saying.
But I've seen some Santas dress up where you're like,
No.
Eek.
come on now,
Yeah.
make an effort.
Right. So the Santa thing was such a success, and within less than a decade, every major department store was having a Santa,
A Santa.
around Christmas time come into the store. And
It's so crazy
Greek
because
kids.
I mean, it's been a thing obviously since I was a child. I just never thought about
Well, it's
someone had to have that initial let's have a Santa. And
Yeah.
it was so not a let's have a Santa as a I'm going to dress silly today.
Right.
Yeah,
that
it's
was it.
almost like it wasn't like doesn't feel like it was a cynical marketing ploy. It was just something the guy did,
Yeah.
and then it just happened to be the
It's
one thing
it's
that
the
took
first
off.
it's the first ugly sweater party. Where it wasn't like a thing. It was just like, oh my God, I have this ugly Christmas sweater. It'd be funny.
Let's all wear these ugly Christmas
and now it's
sweaters
like
'cause our
a
grandmothers all
thing
hate
that
us. Yeah.
people sell ugly sweaters for ugly sweater parties.
Yeah. So it was a hit, and of course, like anything, and similarly to the things we've talked about, every first has someone coming up and saying, "No, we were the first, actually."
Oh, so he potentially wasn't the first.
No, he definitely was the first one, but there's just people trying
But
to
there's
knock him
controversy.
down. Slightly, like with the
First thing.
Is
J.C. Penney
Okay, 'cause
is trying to claim that they had the first one.
Those word I can't say in the
Yeah.
economy cast.
They definitely it was definitely
Those
skewed,
on
though.
the naughty list people.
Yeah, and
Yeah, those naughty listers.
Yeah.
and maybe a couple other random like retailers that we know today that are still around.
But you said
also.
he's commemorated in Brockton.
So Walmart
Yes.
and Target and nothing else.
No, like Filene's, it was becoming a thing.
Is
it was
Filene's still around?
no, but I'm just saying like
Caldors,
They were one of the,
Bradley's.
like,
Also gone. Also gone.
what was the one?
Oh God, Hannah, are you old enough to remember Caldor?
No, I don't remember it.
Oh God.
Do you remember
So you were
Bradley's?
saying he was
Yeah, I remember
commemorated
Bradley's.
on.
Well, before he was commemorated,
All right.
he needed a reason to be.
All right. That's being the first Santa is not reason to be.
Well, usually you're commemorated after you die. Sometimes,
Oh,
most
I
of the
got
time.
you.
Most
Hannah-
of the time.
Got to be about death.
It's
So
been about.
when was he murdered, Hannah?
So wait a sec, he was born in 1843,
Yeah.
and now it is 2020 forever. So he would be 177 years old.
Well, he died in 1909, so
Yeah, he'd be dead by now.
he was dead by then. And he, in 1906, he opened another store and began a new business called the James Edgar Company.
Okay.
And again, started off on a really great note. He had
What did they do?
same thing,
Just
department
dry
store,
goods, yeah.
just dry goods, no wet.
No wet goods.
Just
Just
dry.
dry goods.
And it was huge. It was actually a massive store of 52,000 square feet.
They had no scuba supply.
0. And he had 149 clerks. And shortly after opening, he suffered his first stroke, left him paralyzed in 1906. And then he died in 1909 from his second stroke that killed him. And the city of Brockton, like as you said, commemorates him today. And there's a plaque in his honor on Main and Center Street on that little area. Talking about how he was the first one to
Picturesque Main and Center Street.
Oh yeah, and you could go check it out. And there's someone from the city of Brockton who wants to make Brockton like the North Pole city.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Right? I
Yeah.
thought
So
that was a
step
cute
in the right
idea.
direction.
Yeah. I don't know how recent that is or where that proposition has
you
gone.
could probably
but-
do that for, like, it's quote unquote the City of Champions, but you could do that for like December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it the
The
City
city
of
of
Kringle?
Santa.
the City of Santa.
The city of what?
I was going to say the city of Kringle, but city of
Santa
sounds better.
Yeah.
Apocalypse. Santa.
Santopolis?
Santopolis. There you go. We'd get there.
Santopolis.
So we were discussing just prior to recording the idea of when you found out about Santa, and we were saying how I was saying there in Fish. I agree, had
Yeah.
the same experience where it was like I know I did believe and I know I don't believe, but
I
there's
don't.
no
I don't recall.
there's no
the-
moment that
Like at some
yeah.
point, Santa stopped being a real person to me, and I don't know when that was, and I don't think I care.
But Hannah promised a story.
Okay.
But Hannah tells good stories.
Bum bum bum.
So, it was dramatic.
That's gonna call
That's
like
a dramatic
people
Oh,
story.
don't worry.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
I'll find the sting I used to use, and it'll be worse.
Okay.
So, I'm the youngest of 4. We all know this. We don't all know this. I'm the youngest of 4.
Okay. Which I feel like the youngest is
The most likely to.
the most likely to not believe early.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it wasn't me because I was like deciding that I had any doubts. I have a really, really weird ability to remember things from being very, very young. So I remember the first my first memory of knowing or thinking there was a Santa Claus, I slept by the fireplace.
Okay.
And I was probably 3. And I waited for him to come down the chimney. And then the next year, so it would have been 4, my brother and my sister were looking for the presents in her house somewhere.
Yep.
And I was obviously hip to their tricks and was like, what are you guys looking for? And they were like, we're looking for the presents that are hidden in the house. Mom hid them somewhere. And I was like, okay. Like, I probably would not have thought anything of it from there. And my brother, closest to me in age, pulled me aside and he said, there is no Santa. And my sister was like right behind him. And she was like, you can't tell anyone though. You can't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone you know. And
You'll ruin it for all of us.
and like there's no Santa. Mom and Dad buy the gifts and they hide them in the house. And we found the gifts. And
Yeah.
they were like in our toy room. Which like,
That's a weird
That's a
spot.
Is the assumption of
Like hiding in the open?
they'll never look there?
Yeah.
I think because it was such a mess. And
Mess.
and it was such a mess, and it was in the basement.
I can remember where my parents like hid the present. Like it wasn't unknown. Like it was a place we weren't allowed to go.
Yeah,
And my mother would. I remember being a kid, and when I was a kid, you'd get the Sears catalog and make your Christmas list, and I'd bring it to her. So Sears would send that out way in advance, and I'd bring it to my mother, and she'd be like, "I've already done the Christmas shopping." Like she
Yeah.
would start in like January, so you'd
Yeah.
be like, "I don't even know what I want in January."
yeah.
Like, she
Well-
doesn't care what you want. She just knows what she's getting you.
So
Very much.
I
Socks.
had to keep my trap shut and pretend like I still believed in Santa for a very long time because I went into.
Oh my God, is this how your parents find out this podcast?
No, they already know.
Her parents don't listen to this podcast.
Huh?
Her
What?
parents don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, you were upstairs for that conversation.
Yeah, they both do. No, I had to pretend like I didn't know that I didn't know
Yeah.
forever. So I went into kindergarten knowing there was no Santa, and I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to do that to them. I kept my mouth shut.
That's very awful.
I let everyone else believe, and
She was like suckers.
yeah, I totally was like idiots, and then I think like one year my mom was. I feel like my mom told me she was like, there's no Santa, right? I was like,
It's like, yeah, it's been like 20 years, Mom.
yeah,
So I told you that I have a story about how I realized my kids didn't know.
oh yeah,
And I feel like all the best conversations I've ever had with my kids are in the car. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're just like in the car and you have nothing to do but talk. So you just start talking. And they're talking about something they wanted, blah, blah, blah. And my daughter's like, oh, I want such and such. And I'm like, well, you better tell Santa. And she goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure I just did. And I'm like, noted. Got it.
Bushy beard, bowl full of jelly.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah, not far
Like,
off. It's
yeah.
going a little gray. I wouldn't say it's white, but
Yeah,
it's getting there.
Jesus has a dad. Yeah, not Jesus. Santa has a dad bod. It's fine.
Jesus
Has
has
a dad bod? Nah, he was like scrawny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He was deliberately underfed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was poor
Santa
guy.
dad bod. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I got to get my Santa bod on for Christmas.
But yeah, that's how
So-
I found out and pretended to still believe for a long
Nice.
time.
So if you made it this far, forget it. Just send us how you found out there was no Santa. We're curious. You can email us at oldcolonycast@gmail.com. And this is the part where we stop talking. Thanks for listening to today's podcast. You can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or on Instagram at Inebri-art6. You can email us at Inebri-art@yahoo.com. And make sure you listen to the other podcasts on the Inebri-art Podcast Network, including Bar Talk, Old Colony Cast, Retro Redoctopus, America's Hometown Horror Podcast, and our newest one, Theme Park Legends, a podcast about working at theme parks. What else? And we'll catch you again next time.